Hey everybody, it's Bust. We're getting ready to kick off expedition number 112. But before we get started there, Riot has started to release the new cards for the final expansion of Call of the Mountain. So we're going to go ahead and start taking a look at those before we jump in on the expedition. With the new cards, it looks like they're releasing everything from Piltover first, and the new keyword is Augment. So whenever you play a card, that unit gets +1 attack. That only applies when the unit is in play. Um, and there's a big collection of these. Mechanized Mimic, the epic version, seems pretty reasonable and will play well with Victor and a collection of the other Piltover themed cards. The thing that kind of immediately interests me with this thing in Expedition is if we're able to give it elusive. So if we're, our elusive units are probably just going to be attacking every time. Having Augment, this does have a lot of ways to really boost up its attack quickly, and elusive seems like the easiest way to be taking advantage of that. But to continue on with these themes, with the cards they actually released, it is quite the aggressive set of units that they've shown here in Piltover. Traditionally, Piltover has been horrendous at combat, but like with Armored Gearhead, Nigh Android, and Ballistic Butt, they all start out understated by a point or two, but with just one card, it's enough to push them up into a pretty good value range. And so, again, with the previously with the Mimic, it does have access to elusive from things like Niandroid. Armed Gearhead is an all-around fantastic one-drop if we're trying to be aggressive. And then Ballistic Bot down here on the bottom left being able to create ignition. So, the entire point that we're trying to do here is getting some value from these created cards. I don't think this calculated creations is particularly good. None of these cards are things I'm willing to really spend an additional 2 mana in. There's not like we're getting some kind of differing value from these, right? We have an aggressive 1-drop, an aggressive 2-drop, and an aggressive 3-drop. There is some value in the 2-drop to kind of continue this created card chain, but this calculated creations to me really just seems like a way to be generating Niandroids, which is a card that we would be willing to spend 5 mana on if we're really building towards this augment theme. So all in all, pretty interesting. Just kind of keep your head in mind that the new themes here for Piltover are Augment, and that gives you some kind of bonus for playing generated cards. With these last two, Aftershock is fairly interesting. It's tough to rank how good these slow removal spells are, since we typically want to be playing these fast. If we're reacting to a combat trick or we need to remove a unit during combat or something. But Aftershock is strong enough to play in essentially any deck in Expedition. And now that the landmarks are starting to be outside of the epic rarity, then this type of removal will become more and more important. And so they did spoil the new Piltover landmark in Hexcore Foundry, just Howling Mine, but it takes up a board spot, so it's kind of interesting. And what I continue to think of when I see all of these cards is essentially like every time it comes to new cards coming out, it immediately becomes like, how do we take advantage of Teemo, or how does Teemo play fantastically towards this? And puff caps are pretty good with all of these things, right? We aren't immediately looking to run out like all of these elusive units and follow it up with a puff cap generator, but just again and again we keep seeing these things that really boost the value of puff caps, whether or not it's in the initial set using kind of like rummages or spinning axes, or in the Rising Tides. I forget what the Rising Tides. The Rising Tides had some kind of thing. The Sejuani was what immediately came to mind to me, was like how we were going to abuse puff caps in the Rising Tides, and now we have these augment cards, which the generated cards are pretty good. There's a lot of uses for them. I really like this kind of design space to where everything isn't just 100% straightforward. And then, of course, Hextech Foundry playing fantastic with Teemo, making your opponents just draw a whole bunch of cards. But most exciting, get your excitedness on for everyone here is Victor. I think he's kind of interesting. He's a 2/4 with Augment for 4 mana. He generates this second column bottom card. If you can't really follow along with my mouse cursor, he creates hex core upgrades every turn, which you play to just give him a random keyword. They don't mention if you can like double up on keywords. I haven't seen any real explanations for hex core upgrade. So if you give it tough, can you random tough again? Don't know. But Viktor is kind of interesting in that how quickly can he become like a combat monster? Like he is a very weak champion stat wise, right? We're typically expecting 9 stats out of a 4-drop, but he does have augment, and so as far as he's concerned, it would take 4 spells to get him on par for being appropriately costed, which isn't a big ask. And the way I typically look at this as well is like how quickly can we use these hex cores to get him elusive or get him quick attack or getting barrier. It seems like we're coming like pretty close to just coin flipping to making a Viktor just like a real combat unit. Especially when we consider, some of these generated cards we might be able to play in the middle of combat to kind of surprise our opponent and get some big value. And so he's kind of borderline for me. Like as soon as I see him, I just kind of envision this as being like a tier 3 champion. He's somewhere in the middle. We could probably construct a deck that can take us to 7 wins, but if things don't go right, then it's probably going to fall flat. And so we'll have to see. Like this, all around, it feels like there's a lot of aggro strategies coming out of Piltover, which they traditionally haven't been able to do well. But we haven't seen the full picture of what's going to be released in this set as far as Piltover is concerned. But with the additional Viktor cards, his flip card, and then in general the spell is Death Ray, very similar to shuffling Yetis into your deck. But here, the 1 cost one deals 1 damage, the 2 cost one deals 2 damage, the 3 cost one deals 3. It's a pretty reasonable value. The 1 cost one isn't something that we really want to be spending mana on. But then at 2 mana we have a bad Mystic Shot, and at 3 mana you're getting a pretty decent value. The problem with these is they can't go face. And then when I was kind of thinking this, it's like, we're always super excited to be having Mystic Shots and get excited. But the big problem between Death Ray and those cards are, Mystic Shot can go face. And so typically with like a Mystic Shot, it gets its value because it's good early and good late. In the early game, you might be able to spike a specific 3-drop, but you can typically hit any 1 or 2-drop and get a kill. So it's very good in the early game, and then in the late game it's still good because you can send it face. And so I do worry that these Death Rays are going to have a tough time finding a reasonable target. But, having a removal spell and then continually drawing better removal spells and then getting some side value out of these between augments, it seems pretty reasonably fine. And so I think it'll be okay, just not one of these cards we're super excited about. It feels like it'll be kind of like gotcha, something that we're willing to pass but we're never upset to have in our deck. And then lastly, but before we end the previews, the last card here is iterative improvement down at the bottom right, and it's reasonable. I wouldn't really ever want to play it unless we have a big augment theme. But it does like bring to mind what the way I hoped the direction with Expeditions would go. Whereas with the release of Call of the Mountain, the big thing that I like to call out is with like the Black Mist Nocturne, and it's just kind of like, why do we need to have a Nocturne Mistwraith deck and a Callista Mistwraith deck? I thought it would have been a lot more interesting if just Nocturne became the Mistwraith deck and then he kind of replaced Callista. We could maybe still have Callista around for Retribution. I know it sucks to not have access to all of the champions all the time because someone's going to get their feelings hurt when you take their champion out of Expedition. But then also, we're up to 70 some card pools, and it's a lot for anyone to take in. I have a pretty good grasp of what's in all of the card pools and everything, but imagine you're someone that just plays Expedition once a week, or if you're someone that is new to the game. We've got a lot of Hearthstone exiles over in Runeterra land this day. It's a big chunk of knowledge that really takes some time to disseminate and understand. And so where this aside is going to is, I would really hope that with like the Expeditions and seeing a card like Iterative Improvement, that they would just take Vi out of Cloning Program and add in Viktor. And so I really doubt that this will be the way it goes. I doubt we'll just see Viktor not have his own new card pool, and the only addition of Viktor to Expedition being a replacement for Cloning Program Vi. But we'll see how it goes. It seems to be a place that he makes a whole lot of sense, right? He's getting this card that creates copies. He can use things like counterfeit copies and whatever the three cost unit is to put some created cards back into our deck. There's a lot of generated synergies between Viktor and what's currently happening in cloning program. It seems where he wants to live, and so I'm curious how they'll pan out. All of these card pools, whether or not maybe they'll stop at 100, which still sounds like a shitload of them, or if they'll start slotting the new champions into places where the old ones were. I don't know. That's very lore heavy, and I admittedly don't understand a lot of the League of Legends lore. But nonetheless, a lot of interesting things here. We did mention Vi that plays well with all of these generated things and playing multiple cards in a turn. We mentioned Teemo that plays pretty well with the puff caps generating cards and doing things. I think we'll find some interesting homes for Viktor once the full set of the cards are released. And I do believe these come out on the 16th, where this video will be out on the 10th-ish, maybe the 11th, and so it should be less than a week before the new cards come out. But to get back to the old things, back here to the old expeditions, maybe we'll actually play a game instead of just talking about it and see what we get access to here. This is not like an exciting set of champions. I feel like I've seen all of these extremely recently. With this, I'm going to take the Twisted Fate. I don't ever recommend taking Maokai first. This is just not a build-around pool. Maokai is extremely good as a support champion. There's a lot of card pools that love having Maokai in it, but we don't want to have to find one in the second pack. And so I rarely recommend taking Maokai with your first pick, but there's a lot of pools like Callista, it really likes Maokai, Nautilus, Twisted Fate likes Maokai. There's a lot of pools that are pretty happy to have this this unit in it. We just don't want to be starting with it. And it does make me sad to see what's happened to Ancient Evil. It did used to be focused, they switched it to a Spiders deck with Elise, and you were allowed to do Brood Awakening and Hapless Aristocrat and all the Elise Spiderlings, and then use whatever the Freylord card is to give a specifically named unit +2/+2 for all the copies. So you could give your Spiderlings +2/+2, then all your new Spiderlings would get +2/+2. I really loved that was like a thematic deck, and then the Rising Tides came out and they had to find somewhere to put Maokai, and that turned out to be Ancient Evil, and it just completely took away that entire theme. Made me a sad bro. But nonetheless, so the choice is going to come down to either suit up Fiora or first to the draw Twisted Fate, and we've drafted Fiora here recently. We took her to 7 wins maybe like 2 or 3 runs ago. This is a reasonable pool. We do like the barrier version with Shen more. That's Shield Wall, not Suit Up, but Suit Up is still an extremely good card pool. It's just going to be a Fiora build around. But here we're going to take this first of the draw Twisted Fate. Let me take a moment. We'll get him pulled up on the site. If you're not familiar with the site, it's ftpbus.com. To keep things up to date, I do post all of the YouTube videos to the guide section. So if you prefer to have these all in one easy place as opposed to the YouTube, it's here. And the set reviews, I'll get those updated quickly next week once the final expansion of Call of the Mountain comes out. But today we're going to be over here in the Expedition Helper section. We're just going to scroll down to Twisted Fate, go to the first of the draw card pool, and these are all of the cards that live in this card pool. And this is mainly a pool just centered on leveling up Twisted Fate, and so in that theme, it just wants to sit around and draw a whole bunch of cards. If you're familiar with playing against the Go Hard strategies in Constructed, this is very similar to what they're trying to do. They aren't trying to play a whole lot of card quality. They're just putting a whole bunch of cards on the board, doing their best to keep redrawing their Go Hards, and eventually closing out the game with the big AoE. It's very similar to what this deck tries to do. It doesn't have like the raw power of Go Hard, but it does tend to sit around, just try to spend all of its mana every single turn of the game, draw a whole bunch of cards with Pool Shark and Fortune Croaker, and then eventually just win with your card quantity as opposed to quality. So your opponent's going to be able to, eventually get a stronger board than you, but you can hopefully just keep crashing into it with your mountain of card advantage. And then to take advantage of all this card draw, there's typically 2 decks I like to pursue with this. We either want to continue this card draw theme with Plunders and go after both Pilfered Goods and Black Market Merchant. When it comes to building like this, we try to take it to the extreme and play absolutely every 1-drop that we can find. We want the board to be completely full almost all of the time, and then we're looking to use Twisted Fate to either clean up the board so we can red card our opponent to clear up their board after they've made a bunch of good value blocks on us. And then we're also just trying to have this big chunk of early game units so we can get wide enough to continue to play our plunders. And so we're kind of planning on getting our good units, our, I shouldn't say good, but I should say more expensive units out of our opponent's deck. And so that is kind of deck number one, what's trying to go on there. Deck number two is just sea monsters. You know, if you want to hit deep in Expedition, you can just draw a whole bunch of cards quickly, and that gets you to deep. You don't even necessarily need to play any of the toss cards, although, you know, Salvage is just extremely good on its own. You can typically just sit around with Pool Sharks and Fortune Croakers, draw a whole bunch of extra cards, and then just hit deep reasonably quick. You do have to note that in Expedition, you start out with a 30-card deck, and then at the end of the run, you're going to have 36 cards. So during, you know, round 0, you're just 15 cards away from deep, where so you know, on turn 5 you only need to draw 10 extra cards to that point, or toss whatever, get them out of your deck, and, you know, just much quicker than you can hit in Constructed, even being 4 cards faster than in Constructed with a full deck. You know, you should be a turn or two quicker on hitting deeps. But when it actually comes to these sea monsters, I don't like going after things like Shipwreck Hoarder and whatever the 4-drop is called. We'll draft them if it comes to it, but we really want our sea monsters to be coming from Jal Hunters. Being able to have this unit that can come down, trade with our opponent's best card, and then give us a sea monster for later in the game. Just an incredible amount of value. We typically don't care what sea monsters we ever get. There's just not a huge difference between having a 7/7, where are you at, the 7/7 Beast Below, and having a 10/8 Shipwreck Hoarder. You're just going to have bigger units than your opponent. You don't really care what those units are. The only place that rule doesn't apply is with Devourer of the Depths, since he can Flame Tongue Cavu your opponent's down, just be a removal spell on a unit. And so, in a nutshell, that's first of the draw, Twisted Fate. Let's see what we get to pair this up with. Interesting in the Tahm Kench. Just being like double Bilgewater, being able to really stack up on the self-damage cards. Kind of interesting choice. Not a huge fan of Lee Sin in this style of deck. Bilgewater just doesn't have a whole lot of spells to actually cast. And so the big thing that we're looking for out of Lee Sin spells is we want to either have one spell that counts as 2, so things like Sonic Wave, and to a lesser degree something like Retreat, or we want to be having a card that gives us some kind of additional card draw or value, because if we're having to play, say, 2 Twin Disciplines in a turn to get our Lee Sin rolling, that's extremely bad. But if we're able to play like one Twin Disciplines and a Concussive Palm, or 1 Twin Disciplines and something that draws a card, then that's much better. He typically doesn't care what spells you play as long as you're playing spells, and so it's really easy to drain your spells away if you aren't drawing any cards or getting additional units out of them. And so I don't really like pairing this with Bilgewater, because Bilgewater doesn't really have any spells worth casting. There's some things like Double Trouble and Wanted Poster to put units into play, but that's all in all fairly sketchy to be trying to pull off. And then again, over here with the Teemo, I'm not real excited about pairing Teemo with Bilgewater. This is an extremely good Teemo pool, but I don't think we're going to be able to get a whole lot of value out of these. I mean, we can technically be going for Teemo, try to get some plunders out of Twisted Fate, try to pursue that 1-drops theme, but I really prefer to have like a big chunk of spells that we can cast with the Peddler. And so I think if we pair Teemo up with Twisted Fate, this is just going to really turn either very quickly, like within, you know, pick 1 or pick 2, it's very quickly going to turn into like a Sea Monsters deck with Twisted Fate, where we just ignore Teemo, or it's going to turn into a Teemo deck where we just ignore Twisted Fate. Where I think if we take this Tahm Kench, we can get some overlapping value, especially if we're able to pick up a Targon card along the way. Just a lot of the cards that Tahm Kench decks it really like having Pool Sharks. It really likes having the 2-cost unit that draws a card. I think we can get a lot of value out of this Tahm Kench here. We're just probably going to have to go out of our way to try and take a Targon pack before we get to pick 6, or through pick 6, I should say. Oh, hang on, let me take a moment. Something just errored there. I meant to pull up the Tahm Kench pack up here so we could talk about it a little bit. Fortune Croaker was the guy I was just trying to talk about, the 2-cost draw card guy. And so I think we should be able to put together something pretty reasonable here. If we're looking to just go towards sea monsters, then we do have things like Fortune Croaker that we can really try and pursue. If we want to go for the 1-drops theme, we do get to pick up 1-drops and Krusty Codger, some good interaction in Boxtopus, some additional card draw in Fortune Croaker. Like, all of these cards play well with either of the Twisted Fate themes that we're thinking of trying to pull off. And then if we do find a Targon card to where we can start trying to add in healing to our deck, try to go for that real Star Spring kind of value engine, then we can try to pursue Tahm Kench. But even with Tahm Kench, if we aren't pursuing the healing strategy, just having a champion that functions as a removal spell every turn of the game is pretty good. The way you're supposed to be doing this with Tahm Kench is through Bayou Brunch. So the idea here is, say we Bayou Brunch a Boxtopus that gives our Tahm Kench a +3/+1. Say he dies at some point or he flips and our captured units come back, then the Boxtopus comes back with the full 4 health. So that's what we're supposed to be doing with Bayou Brunch. I think it's just too slow and weak to really be pursuing, but we'll see how this shakes out. So we'll either be looking to pick up Targon and be a healing deck, or we're going to look for the 1-drops deck, or we're going to look for sea monsters. I'm happy with any of those. Okay, there we go. Nothing's wrong with our expeditions. Okay, let's take a look here. So, like, right from the start, this is a great way to be picking up Targon, just the singular Hush. Hired Gun does play extremely well in these style of decks, since we tend to not have any interaction. The only removal spell in Bilgewater is Scrap Shot. There is also, I guess, there's Sunk Cost, which costs 8, and then there's also things like Make It Rain. But in general, your way to be hitting your opponent's unit is directly in combat with Hired Gun or Boxtopus, and then out of Targon, your only removal is the oh, hang on, I have to come back and talk about this. Your only removal in Targon is Sunburst. But I forgot we picked up a Star Spring. Star Spring automatically locks us into Targon. I thought we were going to have to take a Targon pack so that we continue to see them. If you aren't familiar with how this works in Expedition, you can have a maximum of 3 factions, and then the factions cut off after pack 6. And so I thought we were going to need to pick some Targon card through pick 6 to make sure that we see Targon through the rest of the run, but that's not something we're going to have to do here. And so I still think this is a fairly close pack. I think I'm just going to have like a really tough time passing up on Jal Hunters. I really like the idea of how this doesn't really pigeonhole us into either strategy, like either the 1-drop strategy with Pilfered Goods or the Sea Monsters with the Jal Hunters, because these are both just extremely strong cards. But it does give us some real power in that direction, if depending on what our next few packs turn out to show. Okay. Interesting. Of course, the card we want out of all of these is Thermogenic Beam, but I don't really want to be pivoting into Piltover. There's just not a whole lot of... outside of the removal spells, there's not really any cards in Piltover that play to our themes, but these other 2 packs are horrendous. I am okay with the Wave Rider. He tends to be the best top end you can find in the 1-drops deck, outside of finding Epics. And also okay with Shell Shocker. It's just that Pocket Aces is horrifically bad. And Strong Arm is fairly weak. I'm kind of okay with starting with Strong Arm, I guess, but I don't really want to push ourselves too far away from this early game 1-drops deck. So I think I'm going to be okay going ahead and taking Shell Shocker. Okay, and here it's tough. Like, this is going to finally push us towards the Sea Monsters deck if we have to take Lure of the Depths. So I'm kind of okay with it. Like, how many card draw cards do we have at the point? Just the 1 Fortune Croaker. I think that'll have to be okay, though. We don't want anything to do with Wish or Bayou Brunch. That's the easiest skip of the year. And then I kind of have in my head that, we're going to pick up some amount of Sea Monsters, but that makes me not want to take these Slippery Wave Riders. So we'll take the Lure of the Depths. Hopefully, if it gets kind of stuck in our deck, we can just trade it away at some point. But we'll have to see how that plays out. And then here's our pack. I don't know if you caught the previous expedition trial where we had 6 Eclipse Dragons, but I have a really hard time passing these. We just really don't need to find any more top end if we have Ravoon, Eclipse Dragon, like the 1 Pilfered Goods. That's just like all it takes. I was initially drawn to Shell Shocker Fortune Croaker, but then I saw this absurd pack over here that keeps showing up. All of these cards would actually be fantastic to add to our deck, but I just can't pass on I can't pass on Eclipse Dragon here. And then with this one, we're going to get some healing finally. So we'll take the Star Shaping Astral Protection. Both of these are fantastic healing cards. Astral Protection is one of my favorite combat tricks out of the new set. Really just gives us all of the time we could ever want with this Tahm Kench. And then all of these other packs are fairly weak. We are in a spot where we could be playing Yordle Grifters, but we don't have any nab cards outside of the Pilfered Goods. And this doesn't really feel like a deck where I want sneaky Zeebles. I would like this to be much, much more aggressive. If we were really heavily in the 1-drops deck, then I would love to have the Zeebles, but that's not quite how this is panned out. This is going to be much more mid-rangey, and we're probably going to be stacking Tahm Kenches. Okay, here, probably just going to have to load up on the Sheriff. The Boxtopus is some good early game interaction. These other cards just aren't spectacular. I don't want the Wave Rider or the Chum the Waters. The Sketcher's fine if we can generate cards, but I don't like it if we aren't generating gems. The Sparkleologist is fairly garbagey, so let's take the Sheriff with the Boxtopus. Okay, interesting set. There is the Scrap Shot. I feel kind of awkward passing on it, but the other kind of thing I have to say is, we're going to plan on drafting 3 Tahm Kenches. We should be able to find removal spells from Acquired Taste as opposed to just needing to find Scrap Shots and Sunburst. So I'm not going to go out of my way to take this, although this is an extremely good one with Fortune Croaker. I do want to pick up this Fortune Croaker over here with the Guiding Touch. This is going to play a little bit better towards the theme that we're trying to pull off. And here's a Scrap Shot we can take with the Jagged Butcher. We'll value that a little bit higher than the Cutthroat. If we had landed in the 1-drops deck with all the Plunder cards, then the Cutthroat is the most important unit from that front, but that's not where we landed. So let's just take this one Scrap Shot. Okay, this one's fairly close. I don't think this is a deck that needs salvage. We're okay to have it, but from where we picked up the Eclipse Dragon and the Ravoon, I don't really feel like this is an effect we need. So I'm leaning towards taking this Boxtopus, but we do also have a Solari Priestess over here. These Sunblessed Vigors aren't the ideal combat trick, but we do want something. I mean, we can't just have all of our combat tricks be Pale Cascade. So I think we're just going to take this Priestess, help shore up our early game a little bit. Okay. I'm a little sad to see 2 of these Zenith Blades go by, but here the Shell Shocker Pool Shark is too good to pass up. So let's snatch up our bros here. Okay, and a Sunburst. Nice. Maybe we'll find another Zenith Blade before the run's over. It's been kind of painful passing all those up and now finally having to take one. We could arguably take Yeben Warned and Fortune Croaker, but I think the Sunburst is just too good to pass up, especially if we can find a second Zenith Blade. Okay, I do kind of want to... Well, we don't even really need to pick up one more expensive card. I was kind of interested in these Fused Firebrand, but I think I'm cool with the Pool Shark and the salvage. In our final trade, would be reasonable to get rid of the salvage. I kept thinking we were getting to this point where we had like 3 and 4 Fortune Croakers. I know we only have 2, but Gift Giver helps play to that early game theme a little bit. I don't think we need to be pursuing Mountain Goats. We're not going to get like full value out of these gems. I love the gems when it comes to having Soraka, since you play a gem and that counts as one of the heals to get her flipped. But basically just preventing a damage to one of your units doesn't really play out enough. So it's close. The Beast Below could also be useful, but what do we have for our draw? Our 3 Pool Sharks, our 2 Fortune Croakers, 1 Guiding Touch, 1 Lure of the Depths. I need to get rid of that. And then we technically still have salvage if we're looking to pick up the Beast Below. Ultimately, just doesn't feel super necessary. Okay, I think... I think this one's real close. I do want to kind of add in some of this top end. I know we've really hyped up the Eclipse Dragon Ravoon that we picked up, but I think I'm okay to pick up a little bit more, especially with a unit that we can kind of clog up the mid game with. Okay. Right. Let's get to it. Eclipse Dragon Part 2. Certainly don't have 6 of them, but I mean... that was perhaps a little excessive in the previous trial. But nonetheless, I'm pretty cool with how this turned out. see. So, I mean, we can start with Fortune Croaker. See if anything else turns up. Yeah, let me get LOR Guardian up as well. It'll pop up mid-game for us. Okay. I'm going to go ahead. Man, this is awkward with the Pool Shark. I think I'm okay to go ahead and run it out. We have a reasonable number of units that we could potentially play off of the draw. And if it just like cycles and doesn't do anything, I'm not like horrified by that play. We still have the option to like Fortune Croaker into our Pool Shark next turn. Hey, we can play it. Yay. Planned it that way. This shuts down his whole turn. That's sick. There we go. There's some LOR Guardian. Nice. So, I mean, if we had an additional Zenith Blade, I'd be up for playing it this turn. It doesn't appear as though that's going to be a thing. So let's go ahead and play Boxtopus. I think there's a reasonable chance this just stops him from playing cards, and then we can get this blunder in. Okay, I'll take the bait for whatever he's offering up. I assume he's probably not going to just put the Conservator in front of Pool Shark, so we should get the blunder most of the time. Then if we traded our Challenger for a Brittle Steel or something, I'm not like super upset about that. Oh snap, I've never done that before. Snatching up an accelerated pursuit. Okay. Maybe we'll have the tools to play that. Interesting. So you don't have a great target on this Silverwing Diver. If we want, we can like slow roll this Boxtopus and try to Zenith Blade it and such. But that all sounds fairly meh. So I'm just gonna keep playing on curve and adding the unit that can tango with the Diver. Accelerated pursuit. Oh, that's awesome. Interesting. So let's see if we do pocket aces here. It's easy for him to play a unit that we can take down with Boxtopus, and then if it comes down to it, getting a value attack onto the Conservator is not the end of the world.
Winter take you. Root out magic. I'll protect the villages.
Are we up to 6? I gotta keep in check. We're totally winning this game with Catastrophe. Okay, not the end of the world. I mean, the unfortunate thing is we spent 6 mana to trade to 4 mana, but it was in the end of the day 2 cards for 2 cards. And then we still have a ton of value to just throw at the Scout stack. Lux is a problem I didn't really want to have to deal with, but
our sun will not set today.
Let's see if we can boom her down next turn. Oh boy, and a morning light. Okay. I mean, I think we're just gonna go for it. Gonna get an extra card out of it as well if we daybreak onto Ravoon. Well, all our daybreaks will happen anyway, so we don't have to play this first.
Where do you stand on cold shots?
Like this can be like a little dangerous. Say he plays a Remembrance here, and then we try to Morning Light, and then he can still Final Spark something.
Shield is yours.
But
Demacians protect each other.
Who wants a taste of progress?
okay, well, we're going to battle. So let's at least bring you in here. I have to assume that his Lux is probably going in front of Ravoon. And we're going to lose a unit or 2 here, but we just have so many cards that we don't care. Like, we're going to get to chunk down some of his board, and we'll find pretty reasonable replacements. Okay, so it puts the damage elsewhere as opposed to Ravoon. My plan is to bring him down with the Final Spark. go ahead and put the damage on Pool Shark so he just heals back to full the next turn.
You've been drinking this?
It does worry me more and more the longer he gets to sit around with this Lux, but I mean, I have to feel like if he had expensive spells, he would have played him by this point. Like, if he had a Remembrance, that seems like a fantastic card to play on the previous turn.
Answers. I have
Oh boy, here's all the value. All the value. We did just go deep, so let's add in the Beast below. And then I'd like for him to play some cards and do some shit before we decide if we need to play Guiding Touch. Okay, we can just throw turds in front of his units. Then I think we'll want to Astral Protection our Boxtopus so it can try to take down Heimerdinger next turn. But I mean, with this board, who cares? We can't put anything in front of Voltician because he's just going to quick strike it down, but
round and round and round it goes.
I think this is all fine. Can't actually attack with Heimerdinger, right?
A beacon in battle.
Wait a minute. Where you going?
Okay. It's like the worst for Demacia 2020. Not shit talking you, friend. It's just that was not a good for Demacia. And he hits Ravoon. Okay.
No more holding back.
So close. We're totally gonna Accelerated Pursuit this game. Assuming we don't die. I was a little aggressive about this floor be gone and falling to 6 health. We might just have to salvage here. Star Spring doesn't do it. Can we ever play this? No, we're too far away. Well, we can Coral Creatures. That's one hit. One cost card that's essentially free is 2. Okay, we're never getting there. So let's lead with salvage. Oh, losing Star Shaping sucks. That was not a good salvage.
Start the round. Where are you off to? Piercing rays.
Okay. We need to get kind of lucky here. I don't think he ever really wants to just throw Lux in front of Ravoon. But let's see how it pans out. Okay. This is a very interesting block with his Flurby-Gon. Okay, he gets Final Spark. These die, these die. Drop a bit of health, but still alive.
Annealed crystal structures of advancing collective knowledge.
Okay, so I mean, we're in an extremely bad spot here. Have to imagine the only way we'll ever really be able to pull this out is if we can catastrophe him and just come in for the win. So we just need to get as many dudes as we can on board.
There's only one true light.
Mm-hmm.
By the light.
Trespassers.
Think we're dead. But let's give it a go.
Innovation must begin somewhere.
This attack won't kill us, but we're gonna die to the final sparks. Well, so I mean, at least he has to have cards to
For justice
kill us.
and all things bright.
Oh, he had 2 challengers. Shit.
There is
Okay.
assistant.
Damn, man, I wanted to I wanted to kill him with his own catastrophe. That would have been the highlight of my day. That's too bad. Okay, well, let's see what we can upgrade here. I'm not surprised we lost that. I mean, he had Lux and Heimer on board for an extremely long time. With these, I don't really want to make any of these trades. I guess I'm okay with picking up Shield Bearers for Jagged Butcher. We're not in, any sort of aggro deck, so I think this is okay. Okay. See if we can't goose egg this one. I tell you, man, it's scary. I feel like we lose that round 1 like 75% of the time. Everybody be all the new folks coming in watching watching the draft, watching one round to bust, do his expedition thing, to see him lose. Be like, this guy fucking sucks. Let's get him out of here. Whatever. We didn't want you hanging out anyways. So cool. I mean, starting with the Star Spring, I don't think, we're ever going to pull off too much with this, and then see us draw Tahm Kench. It's so much more powerful on the Soraka side than on the Tahm Kench side.
A game. Go on then.
Let's see. I kind of suspect there's a good chance that we'll just not play Star Spring next turn. Well, it just depends. If we hit a unit we can play, we'll play it. If we don't, then we'll play Star Spring. Sucks to lose our removals, but check out this combo. This 1 health Jaw Hunters with Star Spring. Nice. That's nice. Just going for the aggro plunders. He has to have a champion already, right? If he's going this hard to make sure that he's getting the plunders in, this can be dangerous. If he has a, wasn't expecting Ember Maiden, but I was expecting more along the line if they make it rain. And I don't believe we're ever attacking with Tahm Kench here, so let's go ahead and get Pool Shark in. I have to assume he's going to want to keep hitting plunders with this Ember Maiden. Feels like he's just going to try to smash us with one of those champions almost immediately.
I am unbinged.
But you got the tools to deal with all that shit. Got the Tahm Kench with an Astral Protection. That's good enough to take down a Sejuani.
Burn them all.
I'm sure there's something for my tastes.
We've healed 3. Pretty huge. Pretty big heals.
They've got nowhere to go.
Okay, I don't think we get any real values out of blocking this. I guess we can put Tahm Kench in front of it if we're just going to plan to Astral Protection him back. Maybe this is the way we do it.
Friend.
And then if he wants to spend a combat trick of some sort, we have the Astral Protection. I think we're good to just pass this turn. He's going to spend mana and add something to the board.
So what's in store for me, Nima? I need time for commune, Tom. This you know.
Okay, I was getting real worried as Tom went on there that he was going to have another just another way to deal with damage. I know it doesn't exist, but it is. I was getting scared over here. Let's see. Can be deep this turn if we want to. I think I'd probably rather just try to hold out for a salvage, but I'm going to get this down. We're probably not going to Tahm Kench anything this turn. But
yeah, you don't want to cross me.
So what's in store for me, Nima? I need time for commune, Tom. This you know.
Alright, we're starting to skyrocket our Star Spring. And one of the big things I was worried about happening here was the Astral Protection doesn't fully heal something, it only heals it up to 4. And so I didn't want him to get blown away. Let's see, where's our salvage? And pocket aces? Oh my, oh my. Okay.
This is outrage!
I have to imagine if he had a removal for a Tahm Kench, he would have played it. We'll find a spot to use this Tahm Kench, don't you worry. It's gonna happen at some point. Yeah, we're getting halfway there for the Star Spring.
Appetizers aplenty. Who's angry for action, eh? Oh, I am, Jack. I am.
Aye, right. Should have stayed home, pal.
Okay. Seems pretty reasonable. If he wants to slam his Jack the Winner in front of Terra the Tots, that's fine. I can't imagine he has a combat trick if he didn't spend a combat trick on the last attack where you know, he would have had an extremely good Fury of the North or Harsh Winds or whatever. I have to imagine he doesn't have one here. Of course, you know, he can draw one. That's the way that's the way games are played. But I felt all in all pretty safe with that attack. Why is he doing this on his turn? On my attack token? Just to keep me from Tahm Kenching stuff? Like, I was gonna Tahm Kench the 2-attack guy, since we're comboed here. the Tahm Kench Terra the Tots combo.
There's something for my tastes.
Hey bud, you can have some pets.
Bilgewater is mine and mine alone. Neither the flames nor the depths could claim me.
Okay, I'm really just interested. I'm gonna try to acquired taste this powder keg. I don't care if this goes well or not. I just don't want his gangplank powder kegging our whole team with his AoE. Sure. Got a unit. It's fine. Oh, bud, you can get down. Oh, you want to come back now? It's the struggle of having an awesome teammate. Come on, bud. There we are. What you gonna do, friend?
They've got nowhere to go.
Okay.
Make them bleed.
I don't want to go fully big with the sheriff because I think we might need to astral protection here. So let's just play it safe and gold card.
I'm always up for a round or two.
Explosives. Barrel.
Real close to winning the game with Star Spring.
Oh, I hear them. Where are you, spirit?
And of course, we don't have a good attack with Twisted Fate, which is fine. He's got to do some blocking now. Start wearing down his board. And we just gotta get a couple points on Tahm Kench. We'll kill him with Astral Protection.
Don't you dare run.
Big decision. Trade off your Gangplank, or just get a value attack off the Wolf Rider. Oh, this dude really wants his powder keg. Going for Gangplank now. Is that too greedy? I mean, what's he ever have that we care about? Is he gonna sleep with the fishes? I don't care about that. He's clearly got something in mind. 3 to face. What's the If he's going to hit us with a what's that card? The double up, deal 2 damage to something. I think this will still be okay. So let's Acquired Taste to Gangplank. Then if he has some kind of like Fury of the North, we can just hook this in early. But okay, all right. I think we should just win from this point. Yay, the Star Spring. I didn't call it out until the game was over, but you noticed that guy started dropping good game emotes right when he played his Ember Maiden. And you know how we feel. You know how we feel when people start dropping good game emotes. You gotta wait till the game's over. I love smashing a person that good game's too early. Nonetheless, ooh, this is a fantastic Leona. I saw this Tahm Kench and I was like, that's a fantastic Tahm Kench. And then I saw down here, and that is a fantastic Leona. But I think this is everything we're looking for. We want to heavily build towards Tahm Kench. These Astral Protections are just fantastic for both Boxtopus and Tahm Kench. It's a really great, all-around great combat trick. I'm pretty stoked to be picking these up. I think this is the way we want to go about this, even though Mentor of the Stones is a extremely powerful card. Okay. Oh man. Turn my light off. You gotta blue here just from a pretty face and shit. It's certainly not the skill. Skill 3 out of 10, entertainment 2 out of 10. Pretty face. That's at least a 7.5. Oh man. Get to it. You got to stop and think, like, how well would Viktor play in this deck, generating whatever he's called, Tahm Kench Chompers every turn. Got some invokes in here. I don't know if this shouldn't count as creating a card with Pool Shark, but curious. We got to keep our eyes open for where we'd like these new cards. But again, we haven't had any issues starting with Pool Shark. We got it. How many do we even have that we could play next turn? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 plus 5, 11. Can't play the Beast Below, but I mean, it's almost half our deck that we can try to spike off that Pool Shark.
Happy to do whatever's needed.
Where do you stand on
Let's try it again. Absolutely. This is not what the Veteran Investigator deck wants to be doing. Challenger Bird, absolutely. You're more than welcome to trade Challenger Bird for a Pool Shark.
Danger pain.
Let's see how this goes. I like to play this here. Kind of shuts down his combat for the turn, and then we can consider either attacking with these or just go ahead and hooking Challenger Bird. Right, he's just going to come in with Bird next turn, so if we can try to get him to spew off our riposte, pretty okay with it.
Sure, boss.
We hit the big boy here, the old Devourer of the Depths, the only sea monster we're actually looking for. Okay. Not sure what he's like looking for when he spews off these Trail of Evidence. If you hit a Mystic Shot, are you really going to spend it on Pool Shark? It's like, why aren't you holding these
By my
for
honor, you must die.
something a little bit more powerful? So I think we're just going to lose Pool Shark either way here. We could technically Astral Protection him, but let's at least let this combat happen. And then my intent here is to just devour Fiora. I mean, when it comes down to it, we really don't even have to play any cards. He's not being aggressive enough for us to ultimately be threatened. That feels a little bold.
My faith protects
Just
me.
a little bit. Tahm Kench.
Table for one, if you'd oblige.
Okay, let's see how this plays out. We're just not attacking here. We got plenty of time to do stuff. The thing that we ultimately have to be reasonably careful with here is Fiora Strike. So if we, or I guess I should say the other way, if we acquired Taste of Fiora, that counts as a strike, and so we can technically just get killed by this Fiora if she eats Tahm Kench. But we don't have to worry about that just yet. We don't have enough units on board to have to worry about some kind of like combat into us fucking up this and to him playing a
Did that
brunch
sound
thing, whatever. Anyways,
Try me.
Can't fight on an empty stomach.
like what is this, a back-to-back? This has to just be back-to-back, right?
Fall,
Maybe not.
heretic!
Yeah, it's unfortunate. If we let this go, we can't astral protect after the fact. We have to go ahead and just heal. Okay. have to sound real sad whenever we say this stuff. No riposte. Nice.
A morsel of the crit.
I don't see a real reason to use Tahm Kench here. I'm kind of cool with him just dying. Let's actually just croak this one
So
away.
what's in store for me, Mima?
I need time for commune, Tom. This you know.
Now, do we want? What if we think of this? If we just go ahead and try to Tahm Kench Fiora. No, she just comes right back. That's silly. That's silly of us. What are we thinking? Would take off one of these. Would she flip? She would flip and come back at 0. That's at least something to consider that we might want to pull off at some point. So the only way he should have out of this play is suit up. I guess he could technically back-to-back here as well, but I'd say most likely Devourer is just going to eat Fiora. Absolutely. No complaints in that department. We're not super far away from deep. We're looking pretty good here. We have 500,000 cards in our hand. If we get the opportunity to Solari Priestess, we're going to be looking for the
Professor,
Obliterate
I've read
card.
all your manuscripts.
Probably
You'll
just have to
find
go for it
what's
now
the correct
anyways.
protocol here.
Okay, Meteor Shower will
Bask
do
in
the
her
same thing.
radiant blessing.
It's physically playing Sunworks
Sturdy
map.
construction.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, things are still looking to improve. Got plenty of time to roll through this Layer Blatcher Bear. Probably just hit it with the Sheriff next turn anyways. We just pass this. I think that's fine. I think we want to at least kind of save up for Star Shaping.
For silver I talk, for gold I listen.
Bilgewater's lawless, but bounties pay.
Okay, looks good so far. Again, it's kind of tough for them to have combat tricks. If you had tricks, you figure you'd have to have played them by this point. Beam? Sure, so we just have perfect information now.
I'll be.
No, unfortunately, only kill one of these. Let's at least get rid of the higher attack one. Be deep next turn. Okay.
I need a rubber chick.
Scorching light.
Let's just chunk this damage in. We're gonna get like a full board almost immediately, so I think we might as well just go ahead and sacrifice this priestess. Chunk some of this damage in. Right, now we go deep. Devourer gets a little bigger. Cool. Sure. Is that scary? I have to stop and process if that's scary or not. I don't think it is. Can we scrap shot plus star shaping? Do we have that much mana? Yeah. He has some trick here. We don't want to just be dying to a fucking riposte. I guess there's no tricks that would just kill us here, but I think the rule applies.
Pablo's been down, but his knee out.
Ah, I told your ancestors to protect.
Okay, I think we're good. Innovation. Okay, we can attack kill through that. Get another box to push down. We can just hook this way out on the right. Have lethal with our cast.
Your ancestors to protect.
The way that draw keeps stalling, it keeps making me afraid that he's gonna get us with puff caps. It doesn't seem like this card should be stalling on the draw. Maybe it's always done that and I'm just loopy today, but anyways. Let's see. What do we want? I think just getting rid of Lure of the Depths will be the best here. I'm okay to get rid of Zenith Blade, but when it comes down to it, I think, what do we have? Do we have one sea monster or zero? I don't fully remember. One beast below, yeah. So this is just doing absolutely nothing, even though we aren't particularly looking for Rummel. Then, you know, if we found another Zenith Blade, that would be cool. But we don't want to trade this out for the Stellacorn. This is a fairly even trade. Like, I think the Zenith Blade and the Stellacorn are like 3s on their own, but the second Zenith Blade pushes this up to like a 7. It's just so incredibly good if you have multiples. So let's at least, you know, we can try to slam dunk one of these later, but as it stands, let's get the Lure of the Depths out of our deck. Okay, on to the next one. Pretty good. Rumble's a nice little pickup. I wish we were a little bit more interactive, but I mean, we do have Scrapshot Sunburst with a bunch of challengers. It just feels like that's where we're going to end up losing, is like in those games. We weren't like super challenged by those elusives, but prefer to have something to do about them. To Ash Vi. This is a reasonable keep. I don't know if this is nice or bad when we have to run this Pool Shark out. But
Give us some room.
again, I mean, we have what's our chance? Like 40% to draw a card we can play, and then if we don't, it's not like we're like really behind. Just played something understated by one stat point. Okay, and then there's no real reason yet to just be dropping Star Spring. I guess we'll plan on priestessing next turn, and then we will eventually get one of these units on the board. Eventually. Okay. And then against Freylord, and I assume it's probably reasonably heavy Freylord with his Ash main. I think we should just go ahead and open. It's too easy for him to play, you know, Averosian Trapper or even like a Challenger Wolf that shuts down our attacks. Wanted to obliterate, but it didn't show up. Let's just take the interactive element in the meteor shower. Although Written in the Stars is kind of interesting with Tahm Kench's.
Daylight warms the
Would be
heart
just
and
kind of be
lights the
coin
way.
flipping to hit it. Again, in our thinking of Victor, here's the Parade Electro rig. I'm pretty sure the copies count as a created card, right? I've got to this thing. It's like I'm getting ready to like point to my monitor. I gotta get my finger up here. It's like I'm getting ready to point to the monitor so I can say like up here on the top left side. It usually says like created by from these things, but not quite yet. This is a bit of a problem to be dealing with.
Table for one, if you'd oblige.
Our ranks fill the valley.
Something the matter.
Let's just prevent some damage. The way we'll end up losing this is if we have to take like some big overwhelm hits. We're always going to have blockers for these little turds, but we might as well, soak up some of this damage while we can.
Oh, I don't require a menu.
I think I'm okay with this going wrong. I just want to go ahead and slam Tahm Kench into one of these. I think we should do this guy, because the way that this goes super wrong is if he has like a Fury of the North. Whereas, we Fury this thing, it's going to have 6 attack over here. That'll only be 5. We nailed those mathematics for those those of you keeping track at home.
Took the bait. Put me in, Tommy boy!
I'd like to just go ahead and get this overwhelm off the board. Again, like as I was kind of mentioning with the previous turn, we can block these things all day. The problem we run into is, this unit up here that's got +3 and +3 and overwhelm.
I'm sure there's something for my tastes.
That feels ambitious. Let's go ahead and get Coral Creatures down. I'd like this turn to end with just like having to Star Spring plus Acquired Taste. And then save our Astral Protection type plays for next turn. But it's not the end of the world if we don't flip this Tahm Kench. We need to... Our board, like, sucks a lot. I did the analysis. Our board is not good. So let's at least try to get rid of 2 of these. Okay, now it's a lot less scary.
Just keeping the
Okay.
peace. In pursuit. Believe or burn.
Again, let's prevent this damage while we can. Now Tahm Kench is ready to block these guys.
Appetizers aplenty.
We just keep being like 1 mana away from doing a lot of the things I want. This just has to be okay. Let's get Star Spring down first, so if we have to heal Tahm Kench with Astral Protection, we at least have some bonus value coming into the Star Spring. Probably never win this game with Star Spring, but if he gets to where he's just playing like 1/1s and stuff, then that's a free kill every turn. Especially now that our mana is starting to build up.
It can't be.
It's just so dangerous to take this route. Let's do it this way. Let's go ahead and try to take down this Trapper. See if this goes right and we don't need to spend either of these cards.
My impertinence.
Okay. I can probably Jaw Hunters, although it's pretty scary if he has a Mystic Shot. We probably just have to pass and accept we're taking a huge hit from this Enraged Yeti. Yeah.
Oh, I don't require a menu.
Okay. Really? Is his hand just spells? Why wouldn't he try to plunder before he plays that? The fuck? what else are you supposed to say when they do that? The fuck? Okay. Like, Battle Fury me if you got it, but why would he just lead with that? That's so strange.
Call me king! Call me demon!
Chomp, chomp, chomp. Well, at least feel a little bit better knowing these cards aren't coming back. Such a weird turn. He's gonna have some big boys up here on top. Was this really just to get a submersible down for the bonus attack? Okay. I'll bite on that reasoning, I guess. We'll just kill it next turn. Love to see him spend any combat trick here. Just worry about losing our Tahm Kench. Sure.
A win streak.
Let's run it out.
Danger
I'm okay.
pays.
Oh man, are we deep yet? No, we got a ways to go for deep, but we can jettison into it.
Out you get, child. Let us peruse this establishment's fare.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I love seeing jettison be useful amongst usually just being complete dog shit in every situation. I'm cool to have it just show up and make an appearance. Nice, nice.
After them?
After 'em. Going harvesting.
Second one. Jeez. All right, I don't know what you expected there. Cool.
Now we gormandize.
Let's see again. We'll likely just pick up the Tahm Kench here. I still haven't fully decided on what I think of taking 3 Tahm Kenches. He's such a good champion, but his flip isn't very good. The Bayou Brunch, and then we got this again. I don't know what the deal is with Radiant Dawn, but just trying to get us in this Ravoon Eclipse Dragon deck again. This is just so much raw power in here that this makes it really awkward when we know that Tahm Kench isn't a full build around champion. Well, you build around him, but the multiple copies just aren't that good. There's so much power down here in Ravoon Eclipse Dragon. Man, but I think I'm okay with the Sheriff and Tahm Kench. That's probably wrong. I'm 60% sure that I should have just taken the Aleona pack, but we're here to learn and practice. So we'll see what I think about this by the end of the run. If an effect doesn't say how long it lasts, it's permanent. Took me forever to realize that. It's so weird that's having to reevaluate these cards. It's so rare for a card game to do it like that. I love it though. I mean, I'll never, I always have a soft spot in my heart for paper Magic, but the digital format's just so much better in my opinion. Here we can keep all these bit Ravoon. It's just even with with Magic and what they had to do recently with the companions. I'm not like ultra familiar with the gameplay and everything. Then I just do know that they had to like hard errata the functionality of an entire mechanic, and it's just like every card printed with that ever is wrong from that point forward. Or even with what I what I love with what they're doing with Runeterra is applying balance patches every 2 weeks. Like you can't do that to a paper card game. Let's just get this out of here. Like I have to imagine that he's making attacks like this because he wants to play Callista next turn, but we have the answer to her in Jal Hunters. Fairly tempted to just send it back at him and see what he does. Let's see what happens. I'm 100% okay with just banking here. Okay, I was like, I guess we should have maybe attacked first. No, it's just a damage. Okay, I'm 100% happy with that. We can still run into issues if he has a unspeakable horror or something, but I like that, just trying to go for the whole bank if he gets clever on us.
Deal me in. I'm a people person. My saplings.
Okay, timely Twisted Fate. Let's keep it up. Everything's going smooth this game.
Lovely day for a battle.
Looks like trouble.
However wrong this could go, I just don't care. Is he gonna Black Spear our Ravoon? Like that's incredibly good for us. Protect the Collector, sure. He's pretty far behind on board for this Collector to be scary. Like it should certainly be able to buy him Tom, but it's not going to be a game closing Neverglade Collector.
We weren't expecting callers.
Can't bring myself to just hit this with the Sunburst.
Bask in her
Let's take the
radiant
Written in the
blessing.
Stars. This is guaranteed to hit a Tahm Kench.
Everyone's
Be
a
pretty
god.
good. Okay, so we're just losing a Twisted Fate. No problems there. Do we need an additional blocker? Looks in these two. We have something for the Collector and then put Ravoon here. No, we do not. So let's bank it up. Oh, okay.
Back, heretic.
Wait a minute.
I don't think we have a way to return units to our hand, but if we do, we probably want to hit the Priestess.
Scratched.
I still don't quite feel like it's worth hitting this Neverglade Collector. I'm more worried about just like a big overwhelm causing us some kind of serious problem and not these units he has here.
My diet is expensively unique. Empire, battle by
Like this
battle.
thing, I'm not like super worried about this thing, but it's a reasonable Sunburst target.
I'm sure there's something for my tastes.
Oh, he's got this KDA board where you can just click on it over and over again. I miss that so much. Miss it.
Believe or burn.
Okay, this is fine. As long as we're not dying here, we don't really care about what's happening. Pretty tempted to just Star Spring and pass, or maybe Star Spring and add a Boxtopus, but he's not going to have, probably not going to have any one health unit or one attack units to be able to challenge and live. Black Spear. Oh, the Grasp. Okay. It's gonna spend 2 spells on us. Okay. A pretty good spot. It's down to 2 cards. So with this, I think I want to add a Shield Bearer and then just play the Sheriff. We should be in a pretty good spot to just hook down his whole team. Right, he has to add something here. Maybe he doesn't.
Not starting trouble, just ending it.
Devotion through battle!
Raharok, march!
The chase begins.
Okay, this thing can be a bit of trouble. I'm usually not ultra worried about these, but there's some things these can do that are problematic, such as that. He's pretty low on cards, and we can just grind through a lot of this. Alright, so we just got the full board of big dudes. We're almost just dead. Thankfully we're not, but
Clad in shining
that's pretty
sunlight.
close to doing it.
Fall, heretic!
Back, unbeliever!
And would we rather protect Ravoon or the thing? I don't really want to draw cards here. Or do we just let that go and actually just protect Boxtopus? Probably need to keep a unit around. Pretty far from deep, so I'm not super excited about the Abyssal Eye. A lot of this is going to come down to if we can just stay wider than the snap vines. Seems like we can do.
Go on then.
Pablo's been down! Let his knee out!
Ah, I told your ancestors to protect!
Okay, so let's draw the cards before we get into combat since that's a burst. Tahm Kench and Pilfered Goods. I'm on board with this. Just getting the Beast Below and Tahm Kench will let Pool Shark roll away. It's like he's either got a unit or he doesn't. So it's like, are you going to deploy a 5/3 or do you have a spell? That's all this game amounts to now. And we're wide enough to deal with the spell router. Really, just anything.
Burn away doubt!
Aye, right, where are you off to?
We can attack with the Croaker because this is lethal if he doesn't block our other units. Okay, we're done with the snap vines.
My win streak!
I was kind of intent on just playing a Tahm Kench, but I don't think he's really going to be doing anything here. I kind of want to just add Pool Shark so we get like a double shot at drawing Star Shaping. And he also gives us a good block next turn. I think we need to add
Where
him.
do you stand on cold shots?
Maybe we should have played the Tahm Kench so we could just pop the Collector, but... Oh, Noxus Blast. Okay. Let's see what we can do with that. Alright, no Star Shaping, but I like that we went for it. It's created? No, but
Lovely day for a
that
battle.
was his second one? Okay, let's at least just wait on him to get into combat. Or, you know, hopefully he'll play his card first. If he's going to try to Noxus Blast, then hopefully, you know, we can stack ours on top of his.
We shall pierce their treasonous hearts.
Good game, friend. Get them with their own cards. I would rather got them with their own catastrophe, but you know, you can't have that all the time. Let's see. Interesting. I think I'm good with this. We don't, you know, we did have a good Pilfered Goods that game that drew us the card that won it for us, but you know, we were very much in a spot to where like we had 3 cards more than him, 4 cards more than him, one of them being Tahm Kench and one of them being Eclipse Dragon. Like we were just not in a spot where we ever needed to draw more cards, and so I'd like to get just the additional value out of the Zenith Blade. It's similar, but I mean, it can make Tahm Kench bigger. We can load it up on a sea monster. We have a lot of sod value we can get out of a Zenith Blade. Right, round 5, fight. I wish there was appropriate terminology for each of these. I don't know what people call it. Like you can call it like your like win number round. This is our 4-win round. We have 4 wins. Round 5. Then what do you do if you're at 0? Is it your 0-win round? This is. I don't get paid enough to think of this shit. Okay. I would imagine this is some kind of aggro deck that that backdoored into Teemo's. But I think this is a fairly safe start. It's weird having all these 2s, but the thing with Fortune Croaker is you can just play it as a 2/3. Okay, I think I'm cool with that. I do kind of like the idea that if, oh, okay, things change. He just drew Pool Shark. But if, you know, they start with a, like one of the 2/1s, Draven's Biggest Fan or what have you, that we have a good unit to shut it down with on our second turn.
What's this?
Okay, I always like to call out that I don't think these Teemos are like super scary right at this stage. It's the second flipped hit that really gets you. And so I'd like to go ahead and deal with this if possible, but we're not going to be super upset if things go wrong with this Boxtopus play. Absolutely.
A win streak.
And then the way I see this probably going down is that we just kill it with Twisted Fate next turn.
Trick shot.
But you know, I want to go ahead and open. If he plays any of the various 3-drops, we just can't attack into it. So feel pretty good just getting him out that way. And then I think we want Meteor Shower here. It's tough for Noxus Piltover to have, you know, big units, and so we can probably get some 2-for-1 value out of this. Oh, same thing as that previous game. Let's go ahead and put the chump block on the 3/3.
Could you hold this?
Scratched.
See, here's where we can get our 2-for-1 value out of this. Is if we just Meteor Shower his next unit, and now we have the 1 point on the Peddler.
I'm out.
There they go.
Puff caps. Okay. And I'm just intending on opening next turn. Okay, that's changed. But what do we think about just playing a unit and then trying to Meteor Shower next turn? Like if we play either just the Croaker or like the Croaker Pool Shark. I don't really want to add Pool Shark just yet, I don't think. Let's see what he does. I don't like just playing Meteor Shower here. It's too easy for him to just like play a unit behind and then us not be able to block it.
Asking for me.
I'm good to stop here, I think. We could add Star Spring, which is kind of irrelevant as far as this guy's board's concerned. Okay, let's just pass. This is a board he probably needs to add to before he tries to get in. Burst that out. We're just going to have to take these hits. We're going to have to take a 4-hit. I don't really want to be drawing any more cards against all the puff caps that he's played.
You're gonna need a map.
So we're probably going to have to. We at least need a 3-attack unit to deal with the scavenger. Okay.
My pretties.
We don't need topsiders.
No, Pool Shark doesn't really do anything. I guess we don't have to be able to pocket aces next turn, but I'd feel a lot better about this if we could. Let's do this. Yeah, I think I'm fine with Pool Shark. Drawing these extra cards is getting a little scary, but I guess we're apparently going to keep doing it. I'll learn my lesson someday. Wow. Wow, we just took 4? He certainly did.
You're all over the bounty.
I apparently need to learn my lesson a little sooner. So I think we can clear out his board here, but we don't have enough self-healing to really survive this. We just have the 1 star shaping and the 1 guiding touch. Three, 4, 5. I mean, we have pocket aces if we need to take down one of these littles. This is probably just the safer way to do it, though. It's interesting that he chose to go this route while spending a Mystic Shot. We were really close to just being dead. We have an incredibly tough time ever winning this game, but it's kind of surprising to see that he would, like he could have just accepted that his unit was gonna die, gotcha'd our sheriff, and then had the Mystic Shot for face.
Something the matter?
Okay. Sure. Okay. It was a tough match. So let's see. I'm kind of cool with picking up the Codger. Just another early game play. I'm not really real huge on these Sunblessed Vigors. I think this is fine. And we continue. It's nice to see an aggro deck show up every once in a while. That's the side of the realm I prefer to be on, but no. People disagree. People bitch when you get a 3-attack 1-cost unit. You just play the burn cards. It hurts my feelings. That's what people sound like. Okay, in case you weren't aware what people sounded like. I want to play a 70-turn control mirror match. Oh, God. Cool. We'll trade given the choice here. Strange seeing these sketchers. I guess he'll probably just dump like a super expensive.
Paint is just accidental art.
Oh, we're blinding us all. Weird. Weird.
Hold still. Run away.
I guess that's an improvement. Yeah, well, I'm gonna get full board here. I think that's just the the most important thing we can do given the way our deck is kind of shaped up into this, really cheap play kind of thing.
Where do you stand on cold shots?
No more of your crap soup, lassie, please!
It's not soup! You've been drinking this?
Alright, well. Could just pass, but that feels a little awkward. They don't really have any 3 health units. We're intent on hooking down. I have to assume that he's probably just not going to do anything this turn, or play like a 1-3 that makes a dragon and then just start leading in on Shyvanas. No Shyvanas.
I'm ready to shine.
I mean, do we ever want to just Zenith Blade like a Fortune Croaker? It's clearly got a spell for this Tarek, but like I don't really want Boxtopus to go away. It's gonna get tough. That doesn't sound awesome. Let's do this. Let's play Mountain Goat, see if we can kind of determine what spell he's gonna play here. I'd like to be able to try to challenger down Tarek next turn. So if that means putting 2 damage on him here and 2 damage on him next turn, then maybe that'll amount to something. No spell, no dragons. I don't know what's going on with this guy.
Has been down, but his knee out!
Ah, I told your ancestors to protect!
Still going for it. We could have just played like Ravoon or banked up some mana to go for a scrap shot, but I just like getting on board. Shit. Okay.
Where are you?
I guess that probably has to be good for us. He's doing a lot to protect this Tarek for whatever reason, but he shouldn't be able to play any more cards this turn. Talk about this a lot when it comes to these like Shyvana decks, where we want our combat tricks and our spells to be like 1-cost spells, so that we don't get our curve interrupted like that. He didn't have a 2-drop that he could play behind his 5-mana spell, and that's just these high unit curve decks. It's really important to have the cheap spells in your deck. I feel like this is just going to be a scrap shot real soon. Okay. This can go poorly. I'm not going to be stoked if he has a riposte or something here, but I think we just got to go for it. I guess we didn't really have to go for it here. We could have done it in combat, but... Cool.
For beauty.
I don't know. I feel that after I put that scrap shot on the stack, I kind of felt like I really overreached there. I don't really like how we did that. So this is an awkward set of cards. I think I just want to Ravoon. Probably not going to hit anything that we can play, but
I am more than I seem.
I have to imagine this is a safe attack, right? If he's not like playing barriers onto his Tarek. Just wow. I don't know how to read hands in this game. If the new cards go on the left, so he had to have just drawn that, right? He drew a Shyvana something else with Dragon card and then hit Pale Cascade that turn. Seems like that play should have been safe, the vast majority of the time. Okay. How do we want to go about this? We'll just try to sheriff her down.
Table for one, if you'd oblige. So what's in store for me, Mima?
So, I mean, if we want at worst, we can just throw Tahm Kench away into Shyvana. And then she'll come back without the Blessing of Targon.
Let us peruse this establishment's fare.
That doesn't sound awesome. I did the math on that one. It doesn't sound great. But I think I'm okay with this if it goes wrong. Right. I think I'm still in this camp of if he had something to do, like a combat trick, he would have already played it. Oh my gosh, just straight up have another one? Okay. But she gets eaten and then comes back without the 2 Blessing of Targons, right? Or am I just wrong on how this game works?
Now I take
Wrong
to
on how the game
sky.
works. Oh, that's bad. Okay. This one's done. Just have to give up on that there. There's no way we can combat the Shyvana. So that was wrong. I thought that unit would come back without its buffs. It's like, maybe it just never left play? Since it struck Tahm Kench and he didn't die? I guess that makes sense. He didn't actually successfully capture Shyvana. And I guess that makes sense with what happened there. But nonetheless, a pretty reasonable run. I'm pretty happy that we didn't just go and turn that into a Eclipse Dragon deck, because we certainly had the opportunity to do it. I felt like that was there. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in what I'm always interested in what I think. That's what I've said. I'm interested in what I think here with as far as Starspring goes. We have what I think to be like a pretty good Starspring deck here. If you're not going to have Soraka in it, like how much more do we expect to get from the Starspring if we're not going to directly have Soraka? She makes it easy to level this up, right? Because you can take your Crusty Codger, attack with Soraka, and that boosts your Starspring up 3. When you're just sitting around adding 1 tick off of all of your units every turn, it's just not quite good enough. And so I've had some pretty high hopes with Starspring. I still feel like this being a part of the Mending Touch champion packs is a huge boost to the card pool, whether or not you're traveling with Tahm Kench or Soraka. But I can't find the decks that I love that have Starspring in them. I feel like when we slam these epics, we ought to be getting some pretty big value out of them. I can't decide with these games if that's just because literally every single game we started with Pool Shark and then had two drops in our hand, and it's like we just want to add units to the board and not play a do nothing Starspring. I mean, maybe I was approaching that wrong. But it didn't feel like we had the density of the self-damage units like Boxtopus to, be making these plays where we just give up on our second turn to just add a unit to the board and hopefully get a touch of value out of it, especially when we're probably just going to trade that unit away. And then when we also don't have the self-healing between Guiding Touches and Star Shapings to recover, if we spend the second turn of the game not playing a unit and the third turn of the game playing units we don't intend to trade away. We just take that chunk of 5 or 6 damage. And then, that's okay and constructed when you can recover with some of these healing spells. But, with as far as how this deck goes, we really wanted to be spending our healing spells on Tahm Kench as opposed to spending them on Self. So, interesting. I would like to give another go at it with the Starspring. Maybe we'll get a chance before the new cards come out. No guarantees there, but this will still be around for quite a while. So we'll delve into the Starspring decks again in the future. But with this one in particular, I am happy with how this turned out. This, in my opinion, is more of a Twisted Fate deck that has Tahm Kench in it. We get a lot of these card draw cards. You could see that we had no problems just drawing a ton of cards every turn of the game. Our mid game was pretty lacking, and so I think if we approach this in the future, we probably need to try to find another sea monster or two, or at least just one other kind of mid-rangey big dude like the 4/4 dragon for 4. It feels like that's where our deck was really falling apart. Was we did really good in the early game, and then we because we just have all these cheap cards. Then we pivoted pretty decently to the mid game, where we expected to just be losing combats, but we were able to refill our board and just buy time until we could get our engines going. But it felt like we needed some stuff that we could just like plop down and sit there and threaten good combats. Instead of our opponent just freely being able to blast into our smaller units. Not 100% sure there, but it feels like something here was just a little bit off. Maybe maybe it was because we only have one Eclipse Dragon and one Ravoon. That was our problem. We needed more of those. But nonetheless, I was happy with how this turned out. I think the Twisted Fate deck and the Tahm Kench deck were a good pairing. It just I can't quite gather on what is wrong with this one here. And so, this is how I think this deck should be looking, though. So if you are looking to draft this style of, I'm going to call this a Twisted Fate deck because I feel like that's what this turned out to be. We did have 3 Tahm Kenches in our deck, but we aren't like a full Mending Touch deck, right? We don't have enough healing to be like, okay, I'm going to park Tahm Kench down, I'm going to eat a unit, and then I'm going to heal him, then I'm going to eat a unit, and then I'm going to heal him, and I'm just going to abyss my opponent every turn until they're out of the game. We didn't quite hit enough healing cards for us to be able to pull that off, and so I'm really viewing this as a Twisted Fate deck that has some Tahm Kench themes in it, so there's a lot of overlap between what Tahm Kench and Twisted Fate want to do unit-wise. As opposed to thinking of this as a Tahm Kench deck, even though that we have 3 copies of them here. And I think that's a pretty interesting distinction to make for yourself whenever you're trying to draft here. It's like, what is the game plan for my deck? That's one of the things I've been trying to think of to remind myself to say, like at the beginning of each match, when it's like, all right, we've drawn our opening hand, we know what our deck does, we see our opponent's champions, like what is our game plan for this game? I've been thinking as like an improvement to the stream as a way that I can bring that about. But if we apply that to our deck here, it's like, what is our game plan? What is our deck doing? We're just trying to flood the board with these cheap plays, all of these 2-drops. And so if you're going to look at that as your game plan, your real tier 1 pickups here are both Pool Shark and Boxtopus. Or not Boxtopus, I'm sorry, Fortune Croaker. They lead into just either, continuing on to Flood, or even if you end up in the Sea Monsters deck, they really help you churn through your deck to activate that deep. And so I think, if you're in this first to the draw Twisted Fate and building to this, building around the card draw theme, that's your 2, tier 1 choices of cards you're really going to be looking for, these being Pool Shark and Fortune Croaker. Beyond that, I would say it kind of like tier 1.5 in this style of deck would be Jaw Hunters, or if you are actually in Sea Monsters, this is a tier 1 choice. This is, again, the preferred way to actually generate Sea Monsters. I think we probably should have picked up like 1 or 2 more of them. We typically would in a more standard draft, but we saw that random pack that had Eclipse Dragon and Ravoon and just didn't need to pick up Sea Monsters. I think more generally, you're going to have to go out of your way to get Sea Monsters in your deck. You might have another, Beast Below, you might pick up a random epic sea monster, you might pick up 1 or 2 of the elusive one, whatever. You're not going to have this Eclipse Dragon Ravoon every time, and Jaw Hunters is really how you want to be generating that top end. And so I stand by that. The Pool Shark and Fortune Croaker at tier 1. If you're in Sea Monsters, and Jaw Hunters is also tier 1. If you're not in Sea Monsters, he's kind of like a tier 1.5 to tier 2. And then your immediate concerns after that are finding some of these big removal spells, whether or not it's Scrap Shot or Sunburst. You don't want to be leaving the run without one. You're going to have a real easy time finding Boxtopuses. You've hopefully found some Jaw Hunters. You sort of have your early kind of situational removal spells, if you will, in these cards, and you just need the big one. You got to have something big at the end to be able to take care of those double blessing of Targon Shyvanas. And that's if these make an appearance, you do need to go out of your way to find one. Then after that, just kind of be mindful of your curve. With this style of deck, you don't really need a whole lot of top end since you're drawing so many cards. If you draw half of your deck, then I don't want to spew out mathematics that I'm making up on my head, but if you draw half of your deck and have 2 expensive cards, you should draw one of them to where if you have one expensive card in your deck, you're going to have to draw more of your deck to draw that one card. I know it makes sense in my head. If the more cards you draw, the less of these top end cards you actually need, and so I feel like this deck doesn't need a whole lot of them. But that is going to do it for this run. I don't believe we have any rewards. We're still in the open play section. I have to wait until later in the week for that weekly chest and the expeditions to reset. But that's going to do it for us on this run. Hope you guys enjoyed the run. You learned how to eat some brunch with Tahm Kench a little bit better and then had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.